nights it turned way down low. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
When we finally kiss goodnight,
How I'll hate going out in the storm. But if you really hold me tight, all the way home I'll be warm.
We ready?
Taylor is 5 minutes away.
Okay, so we'll hang
So we're
tight.
on the way. We'll delay.
We can hang tight.
Can we delay? You're in charge.
Yes, sir. We can wait till 12:05. Thank you.
Just text.
Okay.
this fire feels nice. But we ain't got nowhere to go. Go on, tell them about it, Ben.
When we finally kiss goodnight,
Good afternoon. I would like to call the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners, December 1st, 2025 meeting to order. If you would please stand and join me in a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will start with the organization of the board as the first order of business. The first order will be to elect the chair for the upcoming 2025-2026 Board of Commissioner term. NC General Statutes provide that each year at the first meeting in December, the board shall choose a chair and a vice chair. Voting can be done by voice, rising, show of hands, or by ballot. Typically, the board votes by ballot. If the board chooses to vote by ballot, please remember that you must sign at the bottom of the ballot. The first order of business will be making a motion deciding on how we vote. Is there a motion to vote by ballot? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, if you will go ahead and vote by ballot for your chair. And I'll come around and grab it, and I'll also give you vice chair. Haley's going to take a look at that. If we want to, is there a motion to vote for vice chair by ballot?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, if you will go ahead and do that and sign it, and I'll come around. You ready?
She got it.
Okay, for the chair, we had 4 for Kirk Smith and 2 for Cameron Sharp, so Commissioner Smith will be the chairman. And for vice chair, 6 for Dr. Connect, so Dr. Connect will be the vice chair. Okay, the next order of business is the board needs to adopt a resolution fixing the time, date, and place for its regular meetings for the upcoming year. The resolution is attached in the agenda, and we will publish it in the St. Fred Herald once it's adopted. At this point, we went ahead and continued to keep the meetings at 6, except for the December organizational meeting, which will occur at noon, and that will also be the swearing-in ceremony as well. And we went ahead and left them at rotating between the McSwain Center and the Civic Center until we get a date certain when we're at the library. We'll make the changes at that point. So with this, do I have a motion to approve the resolution? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The last order of business is the approval of the official bonds for the upcoming year. North Carolina General Statutes requires the board to approve and adopt official bonds for the sheriff in the amount of $25,000, the register of deeds in the amount of $50,000, and every other officer in the county that provides for the faithful performance of his or her duties, which includes the tax administrator for $100,000, the finance officer for $1 million, and any employee who handles $100 or more. Do I have a motion to approve the bonds?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And with that, I will turn the meeting over to the chairman.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. You have the agenda in front of you. Are there any additional items to add to the agenda? I do need to note that we need to remove 2 items from the agenda. First one will be of the consent agenda, which is item 3H. 3H is titled Approved Memorandum of Agreement for Private Jacob Gaster Memorial Marker, and we're going to remove the special presentation for the approval resolution to honor a Revolutionary War soldier and all veterans. Those items have been requested by the Daughters of the American Revolution local chapter, asking us to remove those because they wish to present those with their entire staff from the state level will be here in January. So I'm removing those 2 items from the agenda. Any further additions or deletions from the agenda? If not,
to approve the agenda as amended.
I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
Have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public hearing regarding the presentation and public hearing on the Lee County Safety Action Plan. I wish to welcome Matthew Day from the Central Pines Council of Governments and David Montgomery from Lee County.
Yes, Commissioner Smith, Lee County Commissioners. In a coordinated effort to improve road safety, Lee County, the City of Sanford, and the Town of Broadway, and the Central Pines Regional Council partnered to develop a safety action plan as part of the U.S. Department of Transportation's Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program. The plan aims to reduce traffic-related fatalities and serious injuries in our community's most dangerous roads. In the past 5 recorded years, there have been over 8,600 crashes on our roadways, 200 of which resulted in death or serious injury. By identifying high-risk areas and listening to community input, we hope to make informed decisions that help save lives and make our streets safer for everyone. This program is part of a broader regional initiative led by the Central Pines Regional Council, which received a $250,000 federal grant to support the development of 2 safety pilot plans, a rural plan for Lee County, Sanford, and Broadway, and a suburban plan for the town of Mooresville. Today, Matt Day, Transportation Director for the Central Pines Regional Council, is here to present that final draft plan to you, highlighting some of its findings and recommendations of strategies for improvement. After today's presentation and public hearing, a resolution for adoption of the plan will be at your next County Commissioners meeting on December 15th. And with that, I'll have Matt take the podium.
So I realize I'm the only sort of thing on your agenda today other than your consent items, so I will try to keep this on track and get you all out of here as quick as I can. But as David said, I'm Matt Day. I'm the Transportation Director at Central Pines, and we have been kind of overseeing this project for this community as well as Mooresville, and also working on some regional items The consultant that worked on this project for Lee County was Tool Design. So in terms of what we're going to talk about today, we're going to run through sort of the elements of the plan. So we're going to talk about these as we go through them. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that slide. But really, the first item in there is developing what is the vision for safety in this community. So to kind of set the picture for that, looking at the last 5 years of data, and this was 2019 through 2023 data at the time we were putting the plan together. They have actually just released the 2024 data recently, but this is a little bit older data. There were 8,600 total crashes in Lee County over those 5 years. And out of those crashes, it resulted in 65 fatalities and 135 serious injuries. And when we say serious injury, we're talking about an injury that impacts a person's life. It's creating some sort of disability or some hindrance that impacts their life in an ongoing way. So really what we're trying to do with this plan is really shift that paradigm of how we're thinking about safety in terms of transportation projects. And this is a guide to help the community think about how to reduce and ultimately eliminate those fatal and serious injury crashes. And really it's based on a couple of principles. So one of those is that traffic deaths are preventable. But at the same time, humans do make mistakes, and there is a shared responsibility for safety among a number of different players, including the people building the roads, the people driving on the roads, the people walking on the roads. Everybody plays a part. So the U.S. Department of Transportation has come up with what they call the Safe System approach, and that's what this graphic on the screen here is looking at. And really, it's focused on a couple of ideas, but the idea is that all 5 pieces of this puzzle have to be in place to really have a truly safe transportation system. So you need safe vehicles, safe speeds, safe roads, safe road users, and you also need improved post-crash care. So you kind of need to focus on all 5 of those items to really get the full picture. So as we were working on this plan and thinking about what would be a reasonable, achievable goal for this community based on the number of crashes that we have seen in the data, what we landed on as the goal for this plan was to achieve a 50% reduction in the rate of those fatal and serious injury crashes by the year 2040. So in an average year right now, you're averaging somewhere in that 40 to 50 crashes per year out of those fatal and serious injury crashes. So you'd be trying to cut that in half by the year 2040, 15 years from now. With the ultimate goal in the long term being, of course, to get to 0. But we didn't think 0 was an achievable goal within 15 years. So we did some analysis of a lot of different data. It's hard to see on the screen here, but there's a couple of different types of factors that go into crashes that we identified as really key factors for this particular community looking at your data. So when we look at lane departures, that makes up 28% of all crashes in this community, but it's 62% of the fatal and serious injury crashes. So when we compare those side by side, it really shows that lane departure is a big issue in terms of the fatal and serious injury crashes for this community. We see a little bit smaller, but also an increased share for speeding. So it's 6% of all crashes, 16% of your fatal and serious injury. Impaired driving, we see a very big difference here. So 4% of all crashes, but 25% of your fatal and serious injury. And seat belts and car seats, meaning the person was not properly restrained in the vehicle. That's a factor in 3% of all crashes, but 30% of your fatal and serious injury. So that really kind of shows us that those 4 factors really popped out as major factors driving what's going on here in Lee County. So part of the approach that is part of the Safe Streets and Roads for All program at the federal level is the idea of developing a high injury network. So trying to look at what is a smaller set of roads within your community where you have a higher incidence of crashes, and that's where you really need to focus your attention. So what we identified for Lee County is what you see on the screen. This is your high injury network. It represents about 10% of all the roadways, but it's about 66% of the fatal and serious crash locations. So you can see some of the numbers there on the screen. It's about 94 miles for the county, 50 miles in Sanford, and 1.5 miles in Broadway. One of the other things we looked at was sort of what people are being impacted by some of these things. And really, this is a tough thing to assess. So we don't necessarily have information about the people who are in the crashes. We just have information about their age. And that's really the only sort of socioeconomic kind of factor that we have in the crash data itself. So one of the things we can do is look at where the crashes are happening, and is that an area where we have certain population groups that we would consider to be transportation disadvantaged. So things like income, do they have access to a vehicle? Is there a higher incidence of disabled folks or minority populations in those areas? So looking at those kinds of things, we found that while 27% of the county's area fell within those sections of the county, 42% of the crashes were happening in those areas. So it's a higher concentration of crashes in those transportation disadvantaged areas than we would expect.
Do you mind going back to
Yep.
that slide real quick? So NCDOT Transportation Disadvantage Index, the well above average in that center section is saying they're well above average at being disadvantaged?
Yes, so it's
Okay.
saying there's a number of factors that NCDOT throws into that calculation, and I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but I know zero-car households, disabled populations, minority populations, income, various things. So that they kind of put them all in one big index.
I was trying to make sure I was, because those kind of almost seem like two opposite extremes, but meaning same thing. Okay, thank you.
Yep. So another thing that we look at in safety planning is looking at vulnerable road users. And when we say that, we're talking about pedestrians, bicyclists, folks in scooters or wheelchairs or anything like that where they are outside of a vehicle and they could potentially be interacting with a vehicle. So they are a vulnerable road user because they don't have that vehicle to protect them. So looking at those crashes, we did find there were 21 pedestrian crashes and 19 motorcycle crashes out of those fatal and serious injury crashes in the county over those 5 years. And looking at them in a little more detail, 76% of those vulnerable road user crashes did happen during dusk or dark conditions. So lighting is certainly a factor in those to a large extent. If you look at that graph on the right, you can see the green color is the bicycle crashes and the blue color is the pedestrian crashes. The column to the left is the all crashes and the column to the right is the fatal and serious injury. So you can see there were a number of crashes involving bicycles and pedestrians, but in terms of the fatal and serious injury crashes, during that time period, they were all pedestrian crashes.
I have one
Yeah.
question. I'd kind of argue against the necessarily, it's not always the lighting. Both of those things signal to me is, only because I know of one of the girls that passed away near my neighborhood, there's no sidewalk.
Yeah.
So she was logging at 5 something in the morning and got hit. And then the other ones, I mean, we only have, I think, 4 bicycle lanes. So, I mean, it might be lighting as well, but it's also
Yes. So I think what this is kind of getting at is when you are in those dark conditions, the fact that you do have to walk in the road obviously becomes more of an issue than it is in the daytime.
Matthew, on the pedestrian issue there, did we determine if they were walking with traffic or against traffic?
I think that is typically not something we can get from the data.
Because unfortunately, a lot of people walking with traffic have their back to the road or the oncoming traffic, and they can't see. Plus also, with the light issue, many of them are wearing dark clothing. And there's many a time I've come upon somebody that you didn't see until the last moment.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of issues there that, not just the driver's issue.
Yeah.
But you could argue if they were on a sidewalk, it wouldn't really matter if they were wearing dark clothing.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
sidewalks are, that's in, and we're working on a pedestrian friendly. I mean, if you're looking at Broadway Road, what's going out there, they're putting in a lot of sidewalk on that
Oh, yeah.
improvement. I'm sorry, thank you.
No problem. So another thing that we did see in the data for this county was a lot of crashes involving young drivers. So there were 22 fatal and serious injury crashes involving drivers aged between 15 and 19. And that looking at that in terms of a crash rate, that was about 2 times higher than what we would see generally at the statewide level. So another key part of this planning process was community engagement. And we did quite a bit of activities sort of over the last 6 months or so. I'd say a lot of the analysis work on this was done primarily back around the spring, and then we kind of shifted into public engagement mode over the summer and fall. And we had an open house in August. We had a number of meetings with the Lee County Transportation Committee, which kind of served as a steering committee for this process. We did several pop-up events at the farmers market and at the Sanford Multicultural event, as well as we had an online survey and an online interactive map and website. So through all of that, we got quite a bit of input to this process. We did, one interesting note here is that 40% of the folks who responded to the survey said that they either have been involved or know someone who has been involved in a traffic crash that involved a fatality or a serious injury. So this is something that impacts a lot of people in the community. And we saw that in the results from the survey. Some of the key themes that we got from the public input, there was a lot of concern about dangerous intersections, distracted driving, speeding, poor lighting and visibility, and a lack of sidewalks and bike infrastructure. And the way we kind of use that public feedback along with the feedback we get from the steering committee and our consultant recommendations was to develop a set of priority recommendations. So this is not a complete, this is everything that you need to do. This is sort of the priority items that we think you should focus on.
Did you have any of the bicycle community a part of this?
I don't know that we specifically, yeah.
We went out to the bike shop and said, hey, make your folks aware to fill out the public survey online.
You would think that they would want to promote more reflective clothing and bikes,
Yeah.
especially in areas where you know you have a problem.
Yeah. So part of the plan is to identify some strategies, and this is sort of a mixture of policy and project strategies. And we've got 6 sort of high-level categories for these. So looking at showing commitment and accountability, planning, building, and maintaining strategic multimodal projects, planning and designing for safe speeds, assessing and updating internal practices and policies, conducting analyses to proactively identify high-risk locations, and creating awareness and building a culture of safety. So those are sort of the 6 high-level things that we've identified as strategies the community should pursue. But then under each of those, we have sort of more detailed action steps that have been identified. And this is just an example taken out of one of them. You know, under that show commitment and accountability strategy, we have an action there about updating the high injury network every 3 years. So it's things like that, you know, it's intended to provide a roadmap for the community of these are the things you should be working on, and provide you some information about, is this something to do now? Is this something long-term? What's a relative cost of it? And is this a priority thing to get done early or not? So another thing that the federal Safe Streets for All program really focuses on is the proven safety countermeasures. This is essentially a library of things that have been tested, that the government says installing these things or doing these things will have a positive impact on crash safety. And so they really focus on these are the things you need to be looking at as the proven things that will work. So that is sort of the backbone of these safety plans. And what the plan that we've developed for Lee County does is it kind of identifies some key crash types that we've identified in the data, and then identifies a number of those countermeasures that are appropriate for addressing that particular type of crash. So for example, on lane departures, some appropriate countermeasures would be things like rumble strips, guardrails, reflective curve signage. On places where we've had issues at pedestrian crossings, you would want to look at things like marked crosswalks, leading pedestrian intervals, pedestrian beacons, things of that sort. Where we have speeding concerns, you could look at things like reducing lane widths, having speed feedback signs, or targeting speed zones or school speed zones in those areas. So we have that type of information for various types of crash type. And then we have also identified some critical priority locations where we did a little bit of a deeper dive of what could you do to fix this area. And I do want to be very clear, this is not, we're not saying these are the only places that need issues. We're saying these are sort of a representative sample of some places, and here's some specific things you would apply in that location. So for example, looking at Tramway Road, this was one of our priority locations. Really, it's hard to read the screen from here, but let me pull it up over here so I can make sure I get this right. A lot of the recommendations for this corridor were related to adding sidewalks, making sure there's safe ways for pedestrians to get across, looking at lighting, things of that sort. On Carthage Street, which was another of the locations, looking at the potential to add some rumble strips perhaps, or have some improved signage and striping at some of the curves, improve some lighting at some of the intersections, and yeah. Another one on Avens Ferry Road. This one recommended a lot of things related to curve signage, improved lighting in a few locations, potential for rumble strips. And then we also did look at a few intersections as deep dives. So at Pendergrass, it says there is potential to look at things like improving the stop bars, adding some stop ahead signs, and the potential in the long term to do a roundabout at that location. And then similarly at Edwards Road, this is a much more rural intersection, and so looking at but it had a lot of crashes happening, so looking at things like transverse rumble strips, which is when you have those rumble strips kind of right before the stop sign to let you know there's a stop sign coming up, and then also adding some lighting at the intersection.
So a question on that one. At one time, they had the stoplight there.
Yeah.
Do you have any data to where stoplight and why they changed it back to four-way stop?
So I don't personally know.
I'm just wondering if that was one of the, to lower injuries and.
It may have been. Four-way stops are often used by NCDOT as a way to address.
I know a lot of times people not in that area and it is dark, the stop signs are not as visual, especially at dusk dark.
Yeah.
And beyond that lighting compared to a stoplight. I was just wondering why maybe they had a reason for changing that intersection.
I don't know the answer. Yeah.
Matthew, if I can add, I believe I asked this question years ago when that change came up, and they just literally did not see any change in the action with the stoplight. So they in turn went to a four-way stop. And that was back before Matthew Brett.
That's the group out of Aberdeen, Division 8. They do their own studies on where to switch from 2 stop signs to 4. And they make the final decision.
All right. So a little bit about sort of what's next beyond the plan. So one of the big elements of the federal funding attached to this is that we are also required to sort of measure performance over time. So talk a little bit about performance measures. There's also some potential funding opportunities for implementation dollars attached to this. And then I'll talk a little bit about the work Central Pines is doing. So in terms of performance measures, we are required to monitor things like the number of projects that are being implemented as a result of the plan, as well as the outcomes. So are we seeing an improvement in the fatal and serious injury crashes or not? And hopefully by tracking this information, it'll help us to make better decisions in the future about how to make transportation investments. Another thing in terms of funding opportunities, there is what's called the Safe Streets for All implementation grant. That is money that you can apply to the federal government to do projects based on things in your plan. So if there was something, yes?
Just a question, because counties don't do anything with roads,
Yes,
but cities and townships can.
yes.
Okay. So how do we apply for an who initiates that?
So I think in your case, since it would presumably be an NCDOT road you're interested in, you would want to work with NCDOT. Now I know there are some restrictions in terms of what they're allowed to apply for versus what local governments are allowed to apply for, so you might have to have some negotiation about like who's applying versus who's administering and that sort of thing, but I think you would want to work with NCDOT on that.
Would that be ideal to bring before the rural planning organization?
Yeah, you could certainly bring it there. I think you would certainly want to get a letter of support from the RPO, but you might end up working directly with Division 8.
Do me a favor.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to do this, get with Carol,
Yep.
get that on the agenda for our next meeting.
Okay. And I will say those implementation grants are typically released every year. We haven't seen if there's a call for them to be released next year or not, but they're usually in the spring.
Now, are those state or federal dollars?
That's federal dollars.
And we don't have a budget.
Are you asking about the county's role in road I've
Well,
been
knowing
through,
that we don't have a role per se as direct influence on the roads, but if we work through our rural planning organization and DOT Department, Section 8, is it Department 8?
Division 8.
Division 8, thank you. And try to work out agreements with them. It's just part of the bureaucracy.
I don't disagree with that part, but I don't believe you want to get the county back in the road business either.
No, and
Okay.
there's no intent there.
I just want to
No.
be clear.
No.
Thank you.
But there are also some other potential ways to fund some of these projects. So NCDOT does manage something called the Highway Safety Improvement Program, and that is something that you would definitely want to talk to the RPO and Division 8 if you had interest in trying to go after any of that funding. There is the Carbon Reduction Program, which probably is going away. It seems like it's going away, but that's a potential source of funding. There's the Surface Transportation Grant Program, so that's federal money again, but that's the money that goes through, I know you're familiar with the SPOT process, that's the SPOT process money. And then the private partnerships are always an option as well. In terms of the work that Central Pines is doing sort of on a regional level, we are working on template documents based on these two pilot case studies that we have done, so with Lee County and with Morrisville, and developing sort of templates for other communities in the region that might want to do a similar plan. And similarly, we are working on a data website where people can get information about the crashes in their community and help them understand how to figure out what their high injury network is and that sort of thing. So that is some of the work we are doing, and I believe that is the last slide.
Questions for Matthew? Commissioner Reeves?
Who else gets a copy of this report?
It's actually online right now, so we can get it to anybody.
Yeah, I know we have it posted on our website. I would assume, yeah.
So do you have other state and federal agency members of the committee or any direct contact with them?
So I do know that Division 8 has reviewed it, and they did have a chance to provide comments on it. And they do attend the Lee County Transportation Committee meetings where it's been discussed, so.
Do you have their comments in this document?
So
Division 8.
So if there were comments, the consultant was to basically summarize or incorporate those into the document. I don't know specifically which comments came from Division 8, but they had the opportunity to provide comment to the consultant.
Thank you.
Commissioner Vorbeck?
Yes, sir. So I noticed that the map was 2019 to 2023. So when taking into consideration the data being used and then the recommendations, was what has occurred in 2024 and 2025 that the county or the city or that has already started, was that taken into consideration? Or areas of growth that have obviously increased?
So in terms of the analysis that was done on specifically on the crash rates and sort of defining that high injury network, that was all based on the 2019 to 2023 data because that was the data that was available at the time. So NCDOT sort of collects a whole year of data and then releases it typically sometime the next year. So they just, within the last month or so, released the 2024 data, and it'll be another year before we get the 2025 data.
Okay.
So that's sort of why that is the way it is.
Okay, yeah, because that was going to be my other question, was when the 2024 and 2025 data gets, because we've just, from 2023, I don't know specifics, but we've probably added 12 to 15,000 people and
More is coming.
600 homes or so. So, the intersections have already, they always say traffic has a memory. The memory's already changed. Patterns have already changed. And that kind of ties into I know the goal was to reduce 50% from the accidents by 2040, but I almost wonder, was that number taken into account, also the amount that we grow?
Yeah.
Specifically, it originally just said 50%.
Yeah.
Changed it to 50% of the rate.
There we go,
So
okay.
we will be doing it per capita.
Because I was gonna say, that's kind of,
Yeah.
okay. And then I know on there, it was like 28% was lane departure, so that's basically leaving the lane and potentially crashing into trees or hitting another car, that type of thing, or hitting the center median.
Yeah.
Do they take into consideration any type of like climate, rain, ice, snow?
So all of that is available in the crash data.
Okay.
But in terms of the patterns that the consultant found in the data, they didn't see any
Okay.
specific pattern related to that.
Do you know if there was a close second? Because I mean, the other 72%, was there a close second behind lane departures? Do you know?
Do you know which page you're looking at? Or-
Ooh, no.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, I see, okay. So one thing to understand with the contributing factors is there can be multiple contributing factors to a crash. So they're not gonna necessarily add up to 100. This is just saying that
There it is, thank you.
out of all crashes, 28% of them involved a lane
I
departure.
just didn't know if maybe there was a 27% that just didn't make the bar, you know, like, was there
Yeah.
something else that was glaring besides lane departure type thing? Was it the, okay,
I think in terms of what the consultant identified as the four big ones were lane departure, speeding, impaired driving, and then the seatbelts.
okay. And then my last question, will you go forward, please? Keep going, oh, there, go back one. So the upper left-hand part
Yes,
where there's the cross.
Yes.
That one was one of the only cross intersections I noticed was not on the top 7 or 8. Do you know any specifics about that one? Because I
That's
have been,
Plank Road in
I've been
Carbondale.
contacted about that intersection, so I just was curious why that one didn't make the,
so I will say there was, in terms of the scope of the consultant's work, they were limited in the number of sort of priority locations they could pick, so we had to pick like
Okay.
sample locations, and so I believe we picked the Edwards and Lemon Springs area
yes, I see that one. Okay.
rather than the other one. We just needed to pick one or the other.
Do you happen to have any information on that, like what would be?
I don't specifically know off the top of my head.
I'm done, thank you.
Commissioner Connect. Thank you. Commissioner Levick.
No questions, but thank you for your report, good and thorough. But I'm kind of like Commissioner Smith on a few of these. For some reason, we're missing our education part as parents and grandparents or whoever schools on riding your bike with traffic and walking against traffic facing you. Somewhere we're missing that, and that's not the whole thing. I know speed and alcohol and everything else is involved, distracted driving, but we're missing part of that to get things on our sidewalk roads that help Warren, but also help the pedestrians. And it seems like they have no fear just walking with at least know not to wear dark clothing. But
Not if you
I think it just needs to be an effort all the way around.
If you're hitchhiking, you gotta walk.
Yeah, but at least wear light clothing while you hitchhike.
And you're usually turning around to put the thumb out there too, so they see the cars coming.
Yeah, they might run over you intentionally then.
But thank you for the report.
I've got a question for you. Did this report pull out law enforcement accidents?
So the crash data is all based on the police records that they submit to the DMV, and then the DMV compiles them, and that's where they come from.
But my question is, do you know if they separate the ones that
Oh.
called or involved with law enforcement?
I don't know that that is something that is flagged in the overall data set we were using. I do know if you were to go into like individual crash reports, you could probably get that data, but we're sort of using an aggregated data set that the state puts together.
Thank you.
Matthew, questions? I don't have a question, I just have a statement. This board passed 2 resolutions requesting that Division 8 would lower the speed limit on two major highways. Both of them had petitions from the citizens, and we submitted those. Division 8, after arm twisting, changed the speed limit on Kelly Drive from 55 to 45, and then turned around and denied the intersection of Buckhorn Road, Salem Church Road, and Highway 42, or Avens Ferry Road, because that community, unfortunately, I live there, that community strong-armed me to make some changes. We went through the process, we got the resolution, we submitted the petitions, and one of the elements on the petition was Deep River Road, which is old US Route 1, is predominantly straight, and that entire road speed limit is 45 miles an hour from 15501 all the way to the county line. And made that point, and yet Division 8 refuses to respond. Well, they just ignored the point by ignoring the fact that why is this straightaway predominantly 45 miles an hour from one end to the other, and yet we cannot get a 45-mile-an-hour zone through a very congested area with two interchanges of intersections, and then there's some blind intersections that a lot of elderly people live on, and they're just terrified to try to get out of their road onto 42 when people are just flying through there. And unfortunately, there's been quite a few accidents since then. But my point is that Division 8 really didn't justify how they can have 45 miles an hour on a straight highway, Deep River Road, and yet can't adjust a curve, blind intersection segment of Highway 42. And it's just one of those things that just, everybody that lives out there were just like, what do you mean you can't do that?
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. We had a very nice presentation by Division 8 at our RPO meeting, some months ago. We had some public comments, rare with our RPOs, as you know. We had public comments on that. The engineers were invited to speak, and they did. And they gave a very engineering type answer to a question that was relatively simple. And unfortunately, that's where we're at. So I see a lot of costs in this overall, and just wanted to share with you, why can't we get the speed limit reduced? And that's one of the issues. And that's not just that road there, there's others as well. But that being said, any further questions before we open up the public hearing? Seeing none, I now open the public hearing on the Lee County Safety Action Plan. If you wish to speak before, for, or against, please come forward. State your name as well as your address, and we will hear you. Anyone speaking for? Anyone wish to speak against? Going once, going twice. Public hearing is now closed. Thank you. And thank you, Matthew, and thank you, David. Next item on the agenda is public comments, and we have none. Next item after that is commissioner comments, unless we have managers. Do you have anything for us? Commissioner comments. We'll start with Commissioner Lovick.
Just first of all, hope everybody had a blessed and a happy Thanksgiving. These holidays get to be tough times for a lot of families, but I hope everyone had the best that they possibly could. We're missing one of our commissioners this afternoon. Let's keep him in our prayers. He's under the weather a little bit, so let's keep him under that. And Commissioner Martin had to leave, but I had down on my notes to wish her a happy 1 year. 1 year ago, she got sworn in as one of our commissioners, so congratulations for that. And that's all I have. Thank you. See you at the parade tonight.
Commissioner Connect.
Also hope that everybody had a great Thanksgiving, and I just want to thank my fellow commissioners for their confidence. Thank you.
Commissioner Vorbeck.
I'm going to echo what Mark said, and that was, I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and then just kind of continue with the pledge to, there's some upcoming elections and things going on and community support and for the amount of people who come out for certain things, I'd like to continue, I guess, expressing my desire that the community comes to these types of meetings, even if they don't have a big thing to come and talk to us about, but I think staying in the know and keeping their voices heard is important, so, thank you.
Commissioner Reeves?
I'm glad to see that none of you appear to have gained any weight over the holidays, so thank you all. I would like more information on this committee for the 250. I don't know what that's about really, and any minutes that the committee may have.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And I would just like to say, glad to have everybody back safely. Just ask that we have prayers for Commissioner Sharp as he is under the weather and dealing with that. Without further ado,
Motion
we have a meeting in 2 weeks from today, and then we have a workshop on the 19th. So, without further ado, do I have a motion? Say again, sir?
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please drive safely, wear your seatbelts, no speeding. We're adjourned. Thank you.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, with the kids jingle belling